All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Coffee Q&A. I'm your host, Jay. We're here every weekday, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern, talking about coffee. And today we're talking about items from IKEA that can help you make better coffee or make your coffee life more enjoyable. How's it going? Everything going well? You might notice I'm wearing a kitenge. Today I'm wearing this kitenge because today, October 9th, is Ugandan Independence Day. And today marks 62 years of Ugandan independence since Uganda separated from Great Britain and became their own nation. Now, they are still part of the Commonwealth of Nations, and the Queen is still, or I guess now the King is on their currency, and they call their coin shillings. I can't remember what the currency is called off the top of my head, but I got this made, this kitenge. Kitenges are like the types of clothing that they wear in Eastern Africa, Uganda, Rwanda, Kenya, places like that are made from local fabrics that are done in the batik style, where they're dyed, and they're really lovely. This particular style is in the style to celebrate Uganda. It uses the colors of red, black, and gold. So very nice. And one of the things about the kitenge is that it has this kind of ornate embroidery here. And I'm wearing this because, in celebration of that, but I've also been invited by the ambassador to the United States from Uganda to come to their Independence Day event down in Washington, D.C. to do this afternoon. So I'll be heading down there, and this is what I'll be wearing. Actually, I wasn't sure what to wear because it says, traditional or business attire. And I was like, would this be considered okay? And like one of the things about here in the West that we talk about is like cultural appropriation, and like there's certainly that concern. But I found that whenever you're going to other people's countries and you're partaking of their local customs, they tend to be very welcoming. It's only here in America, or I guess in other parts of the West, where we're very sensitive to that, in the fact that I think that people will use it in ways, or you culturally appropriate and use cultural things in ways that will be interpreted as this being disrespectful, because they just don't have the respect, but they don't have the understanding, right? So I did get this after my 5th trip to Uganda. Not to say that any amount of trips is, qualifies you for anything, but, that's how it is. Kioni, aloha to you, and Mum is with us. Good to see you. So today we've got these things that I saw from IKEA, and this really kind of started a few weeks ago when I was at IKEA. I've been there looking at some different items for the new shop. Dewen, good morning to you, and Peter. Oh, I guess you guys are both in the evening hours. Hola to you as well, Peter. And so I'm always looking for bar towels, right? And bar towels are kind of an interesting thing for me because I want something that's going to be very easy to use, easy to clean, but also one that doesn't look too soiled. So I guess I'm not too prepared. I don't know where the receipt went for all of this. Maybe this is it. But I happened to be wandering around the IKEA, and I found this dish towel, this little dish towel, maybe $1 or $2, I think. So it's got this, furry terry, and then this quilted terry on the other side, and it has a little hook. And I thought, you know what? This might be a nice item to use for a bar work, for like cleaning your portafilters. I'm not a big fan of brown as a color, so you could use brown towels. I've used black in the past, but black tends to show up the coffee dust or the grounds fairly readily. But when I'm looking for something that's going to be, something that's good that we can use to clean our portafilters, but also not be so, so tarnished quickly that it looks dirty right away, right? It's one of those things you're just trying to find some kind of happy medium between white and another color that still looks attractive, still is classy to use, but just doesn't look as soiled, so that, by the time you toss it. And if you're using a cloth for making espresso, things like that, you're going to replace it a couple times throughout the day. So I thought this was kind of nice, like maybe $2. Then on another trip, I found these other ones that really caught my attention. These are more traditional style kitchen towels. So these are the typical kind of linen, cotton, with the red stripe. Now, these are really interesting, and they're really interesting because I think they're of nice quality for, general kitchen use, bar work, but they're incredibly affordable, right? These are 79 cents a piece. And I think they're fairly attractive. Like, I mean, I know we're just talking about having gray, and now I'm talking about white, but I think there could be multiple, reasons that you want to use different styles of towels. Plus, what we also want to do is we keep towels for different purposes, right? So typically we will have a towel just for cleaning the portafilters, wiping down your portafilters, things like that. One towel will be for wiping down the drip tray. Another one will be used for wiping the counter. Another will be used just for the steam one. That's another one that's really important to keep just for the steam one. And then depending on your environment and depending on the situation, sometimes I'll keep an extra towel just to dry my brow. Like when I was competing back in the day, I used to get really nervous on stage, so I would sweat quite a bit. So I always had an extra towel just for that purpose. And I think and these are really great. These are great. And these are nice. And the nice thing about these compared to the terry towels, especially the cheap shop towels that I used to use, these do not kind of fray. They don't pill. They don't really have anything to shed. So you won't have these bits of cotton cloth floating around every once in a while. So I think that's a really great deal. Another thing that I thought was kind of fun is that, sometimes you need hooks to hook things. And these are hooks, these are called lathets. And these lathets are really something that I think are quite nice. They're fairly cheap. I don't know how much they are, maybe like $2, $3. I didn't really buy anything that was really expensive, but these are colored. Look, I got these in the kids section because one thing that I really do like or believe in is that I think it's nice to have, in our work, we're very serious typically, right? We're very serious, we're very focused. We try to present a nice environment, but I think there should be little touches of whimsy just to remind us that we shouldn't take things too seriously. Like if you ever get to Spro, I always have this soap dispenser. You know those soap dispensers you put on the wall and you push, push, push? I always have at least one. Oh, Craig's with us. What's going on, Craig? How are you, man? And Kieran says, I remember getting a formal award from DHHS and accepted with a... You're going to have to forgive me. I can't, because of the font, I can't really tell if that's an L or an I. I'm going to presume it's an I. Ale Faitonga, formal level. Oh, formal level, yeah, Ale Faitonga. Should be more Tonga, right? Tonga, more of a roll with that. Le Faitonga, formal lava lava. If you're not familiar with the lava lava, the lava lavas are kind of like sarong style wraps that men will use. Men in more casual situations will use just basically printed fabric. But the Le Faitonga is actually a very formal, tailored style of lava lava that actually has straps and kind of this hook thing where you pull it. Actually, I have a dark blue. I have a dark blue one that my Tongan friends gave to me as well. Aloha shirt and jacket because I had no formal Western suit. People were, that's excellent. That's excellent. That's excellent. I mean, I think that's a great thing to show up like that. I am curious to know what kind of aloha shirt. Was it more of the Hilo Hattie style or more of the Rain Spooner? So like I was saying, I've got this soap dispenser that I'm going to mount in the kitchen this time. It used to be behind the bar, but this one has it's red and yellow and blue and it has Casper the Ghost on it. So it's really kind of fun. And I kind of like that everyone. I think it's nice to put little touches of whimsy in your setups just because you want to enjoy yourself. You want to enjoy yourself. And I even have, and that's going back to that, also in the kids section, I found this. This is what they call the mala. And this is just a set of, colored pencils. Even comes with a sharpener. And, I got this with a little bit of this brush. I got this mainly because, if we're going to have a place where people, with a little setup for where there'll be pencils and stuff, why not have colors? Why not make it kind of fun? And also, if you're doing illustrations in your notebooks, detailing menus. Like if you ever watched the TV show The Bear, you would see that Carmi, the character, is actually, sketching out the menu items, and he actually uses colors to it. Some people will do that. So you can use these to do something like that. And it's, again, this is something that's like maybe $2, $3. So not very expensive. Certainly not the price of the Caran d'Ache. No shade on Caran d'Ache. I love those pencils. So really, really nice. The reins are very nice. That's a nice one. That's a nice one. And then finally, back to the theme of having some kind of whimsy. I saw this funnel, this yellow funnel with this it's got a geometric kind of feel to it, right? It's not just purely smooth. It's like, flat pieces and angled with a little hook so you can hang it. And I got this because I really, depending on where my home espresso machine is mounted, I kind of struggle with filling the water, right? So for example, if we go over here to the espresso machine, you can kind of see, maybe we need to change let's get a little bit more brightness here. So you can see the espresso machine here. Now, as you can see, I have it on the counter by the wall, and let me tilt the camera a little bit so that you can see a little bit more, right? So there you can kind of, let's move this over. Okay, so you can see here, it's against the wall, and this is on this particular machine, my machine, the reservoir is back here. So you pull this pad, this thing off, and then if you're standing back here, you really can't see the level. And then I could check the level by, I can take all of this out, right? And then pick it up and look. Okay, it's about 2/3 full. Put that back. I have to put all this back in here. The return. Where is it? Where are you? This is why I don't like to do this. And so put that back in like that. Now, typically, I will just have to sit here, open this up, and I can just barely see it. And there is a reflection because the stainless is polished. So I can kind of see here and take my time, and then sometimes I might miss. So it's a little more tedious. It just takes a little more time. But if I take this fun yellow funnel, then I can just pour it and add water to it as necessary to fill it. And that just makes it easier. So, again, that's something that's, very, relatively small amount of money. And the nice thing about it, it's yellow and whimsical. And again, like I said, I like the whimsy just because we have to remind ourselves not to take ourselves too seriously, right? We get all these gear, all these scales and measures and doodads, and we're like, oh, we must be very fussy, but it's just coffee. Let's not get too crazy. Peter says, funnel can make a good emergency pour-over cone. Absolutely, which brings us to our next brewing device, which I always thought was kind of strange, is this. This is the Overst. The Overst brewer. I think I've done a video about this. This is actually, I've had this for a while, but they still sell this. I saw this at the IKEA, my local IKEA, which is actually interesting. The Baltimore IKEA is the smallest IKEA in America. It is the smallest store of all the IKEAs in the country. And the reason for that is because it was the very first IKEA that opened in the 90s. And so we were the first. So for the longest time, IKEA was actually headquartered here in Baltimore. I think they might have moved it to New Jersey or something like that a few years ago, but it's still the oldest, which means it's the smallest of all the IKEAs. Which at first, when I first heard that stat, I was like, oh, that's kind of too bad. We don't get to see as much product probably. But then the other side of it is how they lay out the IKEA, and you have to go back and forth and meander through, and it's hard to it's difficult to shortcut. It must be worse in these other IKEAs. So I'm actually kind of, when I think about it again, it's we have the smallest IKEA. It means we can get through this IKEA as fast as possible without all the craziness that you might find in, let's say, College Park, Maryland, or Elizabeth, New Jersey, or this one huge one that was a kilometer long that I saw outside of Moscow one year. And I was like, holy moly, that's a huge IKEA. But these are interesting because you could get something like this, right? Let's open it up here. Peter says I would get rid of that water reservoir and rig it. That would be true if I was, using this in a permanent position. And even though it's sat here for many years, I don't really use it that often because mainly I typically will have access to a full-size Lamarzocco. So it's like, over the years, I haven't used it as much as you would use it in your home. So I don't really worry so much about plumbing. And plus, by not having it plumbed in, I have the flexibility now of putting it wherever I want. So if I feel like I don't want to put it here, I can put it somewhere. And actually, my plan is to take this to the new shop and use this as one of the machines we're using at the new shop. The way we're doing it is going to be a little bit different than most cafes that you're familiar with today. But so this Overst is that funnel, right? So it's got a funnel, and I think this comes off. Oops, this comes off, so you can, put your paper filter in here, twist that back on, or you can just use the stainless mesh filter that comes with. I tend not to like pour-overs as much that have stainless filters, only because, it lets a lot of the sediment through, and I would prefer a cleaner cup, but this works fairly well as far as a brewer. And so we could probably even take this filter if we wanted to. And yeah, it doesn't fit perfectly. It fits fairly decently. Moist Toenails is with us. What's going on, man? How have you been? Where have you been, man? What's been happening to you? How's married life? Kearney says they just opened an IKEA on Sukhumvit, Bangkok, and it's one of the first IKEAs that's located in the middle. Oh, wow. That's crazy. I wonder how much bigger it is in Baltimore's IKEA. Okay, so let's put this here to the side. We'll go to another device. This is one that I did a while back. I did a video on this called the Egently. The Egently is just a French press that is, fairly nice as far as French presses goes. Whoops, wrong button. So this is the Egently. I know it says Egentlig, but it's Egently. I actually ran this through Google a number of times so that I could actually pronounce it correctly. And so this is a very simple style of French press, but it's vacuum. So it's really nice. I think this is like $30-some now. But, it's a French press. So there's one thing about French presses. French presses are very simple creatures. And as long as the manufacturers follow some very basic type of approaches to them, like, for example, having the most basic of straining devices, meaning that you've got this thing. They use, like the Bodum, they use a 3-piece setup where you have this cross member and then that holds the stainless steel mesh with this separator and this kind of coiled spring that holds it against the body. And pretty much once you have that and it's snug, right? That's very snug. I don't know if there's too much you can do to improve a French press. I know a lot of companies like Espro. We had that one. That one French press that's all fancy. Does it improve the coffee quality? Maybe marginally, but I don't know if you really need to have any of those things, right? So we've got that, and then we can also go to this, which is, what is this one called again? This is the Nelefic, right? This is their version of the mocha pot, right? And it's this one. The nice one about it is that it is stainless, so it does have, I believe I used this on the induction when we did the video about it a couple years ago. But it's basic mocha pot kind of thing. You've got, your boiling area here. You put the water in, put your coffee here. You screw it all together. This comes off and it percolates out of here just like a mocha pot. So very similar to mocha pot and at least a third of the price. So very, very economical again. And, it is a little bit of a different style. You may or may not like it. Some people don't like it. Another thing I wanted to try was this. This is their Winter Saga, which is, I think, some kind of mold fruit drink, probably Ligonberries. Those guys are so big in Ligonberries. Oh, no, here it is. Blend of grape, apple, and lemon juices from concentrates with other natural flavors. If they don't put Ligonberry in this, and it's an IKEA product. I'm very disappointed because you know what? IKEA is, in my mind, is all about Lagenberry. It says nothing about that. It just says natural flavors here on the label, right? Product of Sweden. Swedes, come on, we need Lagenberry. Lagenberry is like your thing, man. Like that's what we want. But I was thinking maybe we can kano this. The Winter Saga. And so like a lot of times when you have mulled wines, you'll heat them up. So maybe we'll heat this up, mix it with espresso, and see how that goes. But we won't do that today. We'll do that another time. Moy says, I'm studying for my year 10 finals. Whoa. Gosh, man, well, good luck on that. I hope you do well. When are they coming up? What schedule are you following? Because we're still like, in America, at least, we're just starting the school year, so I'm interested too. And SK4R, how do you, is that a SK4R? SK4R? Anyways, SK4R says, can I ask, is there a difference between metal and paper filters? I will be using AirPress. Yes, there is a completely big difference between metal and paper, and especially when you're talking about things like the AeroPress. What are the differences? It's all about porosity, right? So how much sediment or how much particulates can flow through the filter matter, right? So when you think of paper filters, they're basically fibers that are interlocking, right, in many different patterns or whatever engineering they do to make whatever the mesh they're making. And my understanding is that depending on the manufacturer, there are ways to manipulate the way the fibers come together, the paper fibers come together, or the way that you weave fabric, right? Now, those will be much tighter, and they will prevent the really tiny sediments from coming through. So if you think about a French press, right, and you think about the mesh, right, this is kind of the mesh that you'll use. You can see it there, right? You can see through it. It's fairly translucent because, you know, it's just a mesh. Now let's compare that to this perforated stainless. Again, we can still see through that, right? Like you can still see my hand down below here. So the perforations, while the technology is really amazing that they can perforate metal to this degree and even smaller, it's still allowing a lot of flow through. Like even with this basket, right? Let's say this basket here. I think this is a VST basket. A little bit dirty. Don't pay attention to that. But you can, if I put it here to the really close to the camera, you can see that. You can see the reflection off there. So, and this has very small, you know, perforations as well. These are smaller than these, and the AeroPress filters, the metal filters, as well as the Chemex perforated filters, the stainless steel ones. They're all too big, to my taste. Well, they're all too big compared to the filtration of, what am I doing here? They're all too big. They're all too big compared to the filtration of paper, right? Paper is just able to filter out much finer particulates, and it also holds back the essential oils. Where these, regardless of their perforation size, have always allowed the oils to come through. I've yet to see one that doesn't, right? And so now, is it better or worse? And it just becomes a matter of style. Like, do you like the style of coffee that's produced using a metal filter? And if you do, fabulous. Like, for example, a lot of people will use those Kova, that company in Portland. They made a stainless steel filter for the Chemex many years ago. Actually, I have one. And I actually have a video scheduled to do on it that was supposed to be like episode 125. And I just keep pushing it off because I don't know why. I just keep pushing it off. But these, like with the Kova, right? So people love the Chemex. I love the Chemex. And then people are like, well, I'm going to use the Kova filter so I can save money on paper. Well, that's fine. But when you even though you're using the Kova Chemex, metal Chemex filter in an actual Chemex manufactured by Chemex, to my mind, it's still not a Chemex coffee because the magic of Chemex is not necessarily the glass, but it is more importantly to me is their filter medium, that pine-based engineered fabric of paper that they're using for their special filters is what makes the Chemex the Chemex. Otherwise, to me, it just tastes like I might as well make a French press and not have spent the money on a Chemex, because I can buy this for under $20 and I can get the same, to me, it's the same kind of coffee, right? Because you've got all the sediment and the oils that are coming through. So again, and same thing with the AeroPress metal filter, it's not filtering out everything, it's just filtering out the larger particulates. So it's just it's just a matter of what you enjoy or what you prefer, or if you're using a competition setting, what kind of coffee are you trying to present? And are you able to replicate that effect consistently enough that you can deliver a result that you can accurately describe to the judges before you serve them? That's a big thing. I hope that answers. Moise says that it's like 13th October to 11 November. Ooh. Well, good luck, man. Good luck. It's almost time. Maybe you should go into studying, because it's only like 4 days from now. And Peter says, papers, disposable metals. Yes, absolutely. But I think it's just a matter of what is it that you like as far as the effect? Like I would not, even though I have the Kova, I never would use it for the Chemex making, because I just don't like the way it, to me, I could use this and just be as happy. I'd be happier, because this sediment and oil filled coffee from a French press is true to form. Whereas a sediment and oil filled coffee from a Chemex is, to me, not a Chemex, at least. Curie says some high extraction espresso baskets have an insane amount of holes in them. Oh, wow. Yeah. Those are, it's impressive how much you can perforate into steel in modern times. It really, really is. Moise is asking, what's the difference for you if you use a Chemex paper instead of a V60 paper filter? There's a certain body that comes out of the Chemex. More of a mouthfeel quality that's different than, let's say, like the generic Melita filters that we use, or any of the other paper filters we're using. I personally, when it comes to the different paper filters that we have, we've used Cafec, we've used Origami, we've used Hardio V60s from different manufactured locations. We've used the generics. I don't really know if there's that dramatic a difference. Of course, and a lot of times we're brewing with different coffees, different styles. We're always using the same quantity of coffee to water, but I really don't know if the brand, maybe you guys would feel differently, and I imagine that you do, but I would like to learn more. But I really don't feel that there's a tremendous difference as far as paper has been concerned. I did a big test a couple of years ago where we tested the different papers that are on the market, tasted them all, by steeping them in water, and they didn't really have off flavor. So I don't know if they really, I don't know. I haven't really thought too much about it, but I do like the filtration of the Chemex, and I think it does give a little bit more of a body to the coffee, or just a better mouthfeel. That's a good question. I don't necessarily have a strong answer for that. Yeah, okay, so then finally, let's move on to the last piece. This is the one that I actually picked up. Like these three I've had for a while, and I think I've used, I think I made a video about this. I don't remember if I made a video, but I know I made videos about these two. And there'll be a new video about this one coming out soon. This is the IKEA 365 Plus. Designed by Ola Vilborg. Ola Vilborg. Thank you, Ola. And the nice thing about Ola, she got a really nice design here that is very simple, very kind of, it's got a cork bottom here, which I think is a really nice touch. And it looks very attractive. It got the nice beech or birch top, so it's very Scandinavian steel, glass, very, very Nordic, very Scandinavian style. So very, very true to form. And what I like about this, it's super simple. Like it's just this nicely done straight-sided glass with a little bit of wall here, a little bit of flat here, integrated glass handle, nice little pouring spout. I mean, there's still some coffee left from my video recording with the original video of this. And then this thing here, the plunger, is very simple again. And it is kind of simple in respect that you can feel that this is kind of where they save money, right? You can see how it kind of flops here like this, right? Just kind of, and then you can hear that, and that actually kind of grates on me for some reason. But it doesn't have this smooth, like this is like less than $20. This is over $30, right? So you can, there's actually it's a little bit nicer the way this slides. But like I said, the critical components for me with French presses are these components, these three. The separation medium, and this has the traditional Bodum style with the cross member, the stainless steel mesh, and then this perforation here at the bottom with the coils, which allows it to be snug against the walls of the vessel. And it is fairly snug. So once you have it straight, it does good separation. And I think that's really all you need. It's a super simple way to brew coffee. And it is, I would say, fairly elegant, especially in this form factor. And the nice thing, it has this cork bottom, so you don't have to necessarily worry about scorching your surfaces, which I don't know if we ever get to the temperature where like I could scorch like Formica or even Corian or any of the engineered tops or even wood. Like it would have to be severely hot. But maybe it's also about worry about the heat of the moisture so that the cork will absorb that. So that's a good thing. All right, so let's brew some of this today and see how it works. So we're going to, oh gosh, I got to clean up a little bit here. It's getting a little bit out of control. Got our new products. Gonna put those into work soon. And since it is Ugandan Independence, I thought we'd get this coffee from Chariots, the Sippy Specialty Blend from Sippy Falls in Uganda. This one, of course, is roasted and sent to me by one of my good friends, Simon Ochin, who owns Chariots in Kampala. So we're going to give that. We've had this on the show before, as you probably recall. So we're going to just brew some more again and give the 365 Plus a try. This is their newest of, what do you call it? This is their newest of brewers. Okay, so let's go here to our trusty fellow Tally Pro. We want to go to, not brew assist, we want to go to, I'm still trying to get the use of all the different buttons, remember them. So now we're going to brew our typical brew, which is 24 grams. Whoops, a little bit too much. All right, 24, nice. Nice, we've got that 24. Now we're going to go over here and get our newly trusty Gen 2. And I've set it already to full coarseness to see, to get, we want to go as fully coarse as we can in the French press because because the coffee is fully immersing for the entire 4 minutes. So we don't want it, of course, if you're not familiar, the finer you grind, the more rapid the extraction can be, right? Especially in this kind of process where we're going to marry the water and the ground coffee together for the entire brew time. We want to retard the extraction rate by going fairly coarse, by very coarse on it, as coarse as the grinder will go. So let's turn it on. Where's it down here? I must say, I do like how this thing, I do like how this thing spins up fast and then slows down to operating speed, and then we'll put this in there. And I have to admit that it's going to stop. I gotta say that feeling fairly spoiled now. I do like these niceties of this grinder, this fast speed, the auto stop feature. Like, I mean, the old Baratza Virtuoso, if you pull once you pull on it, or once it reaches the target grind setting, weight, it will stop. But I don't know. I find that this to be tickling. What does bother me a little bit is the stickiness, which I appreciate, right? Because it's got this non-skid thing here, but it means I have to pick it up more. And that's true with the fellow scale as well. It has that stickiness. So basically I have to pick it up and deliberately move it, which is, for usage, it's much better. It is much better. I'm not complaining about that. Moise asks, do you have any budget grinder recommendations for espresso? Anything under 245 euros? I'm thinking of getting a DF54. You know what? I don't have any opinion about the DF54 because I've never used one. I would say that if you're looking for very specific recommendations for grinders for espresso, you probably want to look at what James has to say. Hoon would be a good person to talk to, or at least to review. Of course, Lance is also another one. The other YouTubers are much more in tune with the home user enthusiast, right? So that they're going to be looking at a lot more equipment that is really geared towards home use. Like, I mean, if you look at what I have here, I'm used to having leftover professional level equipment. Like this is over here is the Moser Major Auto. You can kind of see it in the corner of this, right? So I have the Moser Major Auto, which, you might be able to find something of that scale, of that level on the used market for very cheap. Like these, when I got this one, was probably just a few $100s. And that's the kind of grinder that you probably will outlive, or it will outlive you. And I say that with the caveat that one of my really good friends, when he got into espresso a couple of years ago, he's like, "Hey man, can you help me get a grinder for my house?" Because he bought a GS3 for his home, and he's like, "I need a really good grinder, and I think I like the Chiato, the commercial Chiato. Can you get me one? Do you have an account?" I said, "Yeah, I can get you one, no problem." So got him one. It's like $3,500, right? Something like that. And he's like, "Do you see it's good?" I said, "Dude, this is at this level of grinder, you will never need this level of grinder and the amount of coffee you will be making at home, and you could be making coffee for your entire family 3 times a day." I said to him, "You will never outgrow this grinder, never." But it's not a question of whether he really outgrew it. But less than a year later, he's like, "What do you think about?" He's like, "What do you think about these other grinders?" I was like, "Dude, you don't really need another grinder." He was like, "Yeah, but I want to have another grinder." And I was like, "Okay, fair enough." So those guys are the ones that I think will be much more in tune to. Like, I mean, if you're really looking for budget, I mean, what I tend to know is things like the Baratza line. Baratza is something that we, as an operator, very affordable grinders that are very reliable. They've been like the Virtuoso that I was using here on the show. I got that used in 2007. And it's still running today. It's still great. It's still great. It's still a solid grinder. It's now in my kitchen, where if I want to make coffee in the kitchen, I will just use that there. So I don't have to come back down here and use it. So yeah, I can't. If you ask me specifically about your DF54, I can't really tell you one way or the other. I would just be totally, blowing smoke on that. I mean, I think there are a number of grinders now on the market, like the newer Moser has a new one that Pete Licata worked on. I think Time More has a grinder that I saw at the show. The guys from Chicago, that long tube one where you can replace the dial handles, and you can replace all the different burrs. Like, I think those are supposed to do espresso quality grind. Of course, that's outside of your budget range. So yeah, I can't. Yeah, I have to admit when I don't know something. Makru says, "I've heard good things about the Baratza ESP espresso grinder for the price." I mean, I think that is like the Baratzas. I've got a couple of Baratzas. I have the Virtuoso that I used a lot. I had the Forte when it first came out. We used that as one of our grinders at the shop. Beat the heck out of it. And I mean, we were pounding on that grinder before it finally started to have problems. I still have it in the box somewhere over here. I haven't sent it to the factory. It was like, "You just send it to us, we'll fix it." And I was like, "All right." Sometimes you just don't. And the Encore is fairly decent. Like they say you can take these grinders and dial them down to the point that they will do espresso, and they even have espresso attachments for them. I've never used them in that respect, unfortunately, because I've always had the commercial grinders. So yeah, I'm deficient in knowledge in those areas. Oh no. And Keone says, maybe good to get a secondhand grinder as the burrs are already broken in, and you're probably, yeah, I totally agree with it. Like I said, these mods are majors. I'm not to say that I got this mod. This is mods are major. This particular one is actually a ex-Starbucks grinder. There was a time when Starbucks started making their transition to the super automatics, where they were basically, there was a company called TagX that was selling all their equipment at auction, and you got these for like $300 back in 2005. It was crazy time. It was crazy times. All right, let us go here. And we're going to go to we got to get all that extra coffee grinds out of there, the old stuff. Okay, we're going to now switch modes, brew assist. I got to remember how to do this all the time. Tear it out. Let's get our coffee here. Okay, this is the one part that does kind of irritate me a little bit, right? These, I love these in the fact that it channels everything, right, to one area. But you always got to remember that you got to go behind them to get whatever. See, there's always something. There's always something. You guys, those of you guys who have this, you know this. And then I'll just turn it over. And there it is. And then that's our coffee. We've got 24 grams in here. And I got it set to 114.5 because, 350. I wanted 350. So now it's going to be fairly simple because we're using this French press. I'm going to go straight from the kettle that just was at a hard boil. I turned it off. So now I'm just trying to let it cool down a little bit. I'm going to pour straight into it. And we're going to start the time and everything. I got to remember now to press this timer button so that everything resets. And here's our kettle. And let's pour. All right, 150 grams. We're going to let that steep. We're not getting too much bloom. I mean, the coffee, if you remember when this coffee came to us, it was a little while ago. So Moise says that maybe, but I'm a bit skeptical about secondhand stuff. Had bad experience with secondhand stuff that broke up. That is something to be concerned about. It always depends on who's had it, as well as, of course, the way who had it will determine how it was handled. But also, you might want to think about the delicateness of the equipment itself to begin with. Like Mazda Major Auto, fairly bulletproof. Like they could beat the hell out. They could drop it from like a second-story building. I think it would still work. So that kind of mitigates the concern about, if you bought a used one like that. So just think about what you're buying, how delicate it is. But I do think that there is a lot of possibility in the secondhand market. So now we're just going to go straight to our mark, 1 minute, 30 seconds. And then now I'm going to place the lid on. What I'm going to do is I'm putting the lid on. I'm also going to make sure that I push it just a little bit so that a little bit of the liquid starts to show up on the filter, so that we know that all of the coffee is submerged and extracting. Now we just got another 2 minutes to go. I wish the camera would decide to focus on this rather than this. And Q&A says, look for one from someone who is upgrading. Also remember, conical grinders make really good espresso. You could probably get a niche zero for a good price and there, but well, yeah, I mean, I think that's spot on advice there for you to consider. You can get, by buying used, you can get a lot better gear at cheaper price. Like, for example, with the exception of this camera, this angle, this camera, and this camera, I bought all used. So, and these are really, now the one that's above, this is the Sony a6000. It's a fairly old camera by this point, but it still works. And I got it for a great deal with a lens. So it was super cheap. I think it was like $300. The camera that this camera replaced was the Sony RX10. That was the one before that we were using that just went south last week. That I got for $250, and that's like a camera that costs like, now if you bought the RX10 Mark IV, I think it's like $1,500 or more. So you can get nice quality equipment for at a good deal. Like, yeah, I spent $250 a year ago. Put the RX, or maybe less than a year ago, put the RX10 in, and it crapped out after a year. I mean, it is a 10-year-old camera. This is probably a 10-year-old camera as well. But, we did get a lot of life out of it. I mean, we did how many episodes of this show with that camera, so I can't be too upset about it. Whew. There it is. 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 4 minutes. There it is, 4 minutes now. Let's take this out of the way. And then all we got to do, we need to use there we are. Nice. Now we've got this whole stylish Scandinavian Ugandan coffee experience. Or just press down. Oh, actually, yeah. Nice. Okay, so there it is. It's fairly simple. Fairly simple. Now on the cap here, there is, ouch, something to look for. There is a slotted strainer. Just got to make sure that is brought to the front so that it's all together and pours easier. So let's pour this into our cup here. Now, as you can see, compared to what we normally brew with filters, are you going to focus on us? Yeah, there we go. It is cloudier, right? You can see it is more translucent, or the opacity is greater. So, you can see the sediment that's floating. That's the big thing between metal and paper, is that there's going to be more sediments in, which is going to offer a different flavor experience, perhaps more body, perhaps a little dryness. But it also means that you don't want to drink all the way to the very bottom of your cup or server, because you will get some of those sediments. That's why this is meant to separate that. So on this one you won't, but like other process, like for example, today's Wednesday, when we did the e-brick on Monday, you don't want to drink all the way down. Oh, that's nice. Nice, rich body, rounded, good mouthfeel, cacao notes. Of course, the sediment makes the coffee heavier. Like there's a greater weightiness to the coffee because of the extra sediments. Peter says, if you need to spend money, put it to your grinder. I don't care too much on the other gear. Grinder is most important. And Kenny agrees. Absolutely. That is absolutely very true. Like, let's say this setup that we have over here, right? We've got the La Valentina, the Mother Major, right? These two, like this, when I bought this, I spent $1,500 on this machine back in 2002. And I was like, oh my gosh, these are the cases where we talk about hurt once. What's the saying? Something about you hurt once and then you never have to worry about it again. And at the time, $1,500 for me was a lot of money to buy a machine. But here it is, 2024, 22 years later. Oh, no, 22 years later, this thing is still running. Granted, I'm not pounding on it as much as the La Marzocco's, but here it is, running, fully working. This one was, I bought this used in 2004, 2005. It was probably being used for at least 5 years before that. So again, 20 plus years old, still running, right? So this is why you may want to consider saving money for the grinder that you find the grinder that you really like. That's a really nice quality grinder, and just wait and get that, because Or buy the interim grinders and then save your money for the better one. Because once you get a good grinder, you don't necessarily have to change the grinder. You can change all kinds of your gear. The technology and gear will change. Like this E61 would be considered an albatross compared to the meticulous or the decent, but it still makes delicious coffee. And this is still quite nice. All right. I think that's what I'll have for you today. Moise, come and join us again if you have and good luck on your finals there. Hope you do well. But that's it. That's pretty much what we have here from IKEA. I hope that gives some insight, maybe, and encourage you to check out what IKEA has to offer. I think there's a lot of interesting things that could make your coffee experience a little bit more enjoyable, even from a place as simple and as economical as IKEA. Something else I've been thinking about looking more into our Chinese-made stuff. Like this from Temu for $7 was super interesting. And I was watching this guy on YouTube about woodworking, a guy named Hooked on Wood. Is that right? Hooked on Wood guy down, Dennis from Germany. He's doing reviews on Chinese-made woodworking instruments. And I'm like, there's some interesting stuff there. I really should be looking more there and seeing what those guys are making. So we'll probably get more into that. All right, well, good to see all of you. Moise, Peter, Mom, Keone, always good to see you guys. Everybody else, have a wonderful day out there or evening. Pleasant night to you all. And I'll be back again tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern. Hope to see you then.